Hello, and welcome to the Patricia Joe Grover Show, where we turn believers into achievers. And today, my guest is Tricia Parido. And let me tell you some great information about Tricia. She is a nationally certified life coach and a master addiction specialist, and she's on the front lines of making life better for those who desire a better life. She currently serves as a founder and director of Turning Leaves Recovery, Life, and Wellness Coaching. It's a nationally certified coaching practice whose mission is to provide personalized, highly quality care and guide individuals towards an empowerment and improved quality of life and wellness. As such, Parido plays an integral role in the life of her clients as a life coach, master addictions coach, addiction treatment counselor, intervention professional, and professional case manager. Her practice is built upon her professional attributes of passion, compassion, advocacy, objectivity, and honesty. Specializing in life transitions and post-treatment, Parido is ever committed to assuming the roles whom she is entrusted and are motivated, empowered, and to conquer their life challenges, and addictions. She is especially attuned to those who have encountered struggles with behavioral and process addictions. After having successfully embraced recovery achievements on her own, Parido is tactfully combined her empathy and passion for social change and her admirable experience and credentials. This combination has equipped her to provide quality service in a manner that motivates individuals to achieve their full potential, return to a level of functioning that will provide them with great self-worth, and conquer the stigma and shame that generally arise when individuals are seeking recovery support. Well, thank you for being with me, Tricia. There are so many people out there in the world that really need to have this information available to them. And the holidays is really difficult time, and I really wanted to get a chance to have you on and talk about this, because we want people to be able to move forward positively and to make the most out of 2021, because it's been so difficult for so many people for 2020. And so hearing from you, this is going to be fabulous. So thank you for being with me.
Thank you. I'm super honored to be here. And, I appreciate the opportunity. And I'd love for everybody to just kind of take a breath, because you just said a mouthful,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's a lot. So, generally I like people to say, to have people just take whatever vision they have when they hear the words addiction and recovery and kind of put it aside, because it's a really narrow perspective that we hold. So usually when we hear addiction and we hear recovery, we think of the down, the out, the ill, the struggling, the not functioning. And really I became so passionate because I highly functioning. I have a long story that spans over 30 years that, waxes and wanes through different levels of severity, but also different types of things. So that's those process, the behavioral. Sure, there was the chemical, right? But it's so much more. It's that people pleasing codependency. There are so many things. And honestly, we all have a habit that holds us hostage. We maybe just don't know that's what's happening yet. And so when we look at that and we say, wow, I really want to live free. I want to feel free to have my life look, feel, and be however I want it to, up to and including how I receive stimuli. How do I see it? How do I hear it? Maybe we just need to adjust our lens and hear through a different filter, right? So, it's generally, what I'm all about is when we talk about removing that stigma, it's because, you know what? there are a whole lot of people out there that are really struggling, and there isn't really a level of care that they feel like, like they're like, hey, I don't need to leave my life. I don't even assess for needing detoxification, stabilization. Like I really could just adjust my relationship with chocolate. Like it can be that simple. It can be that small. But if it's something that's gut wrenching for you, it's a habit that's just really, holding on to you, like we can handle that. Anyway.
Right. No, fantastic. Again, we're being real. We're being real here, Tricia. And right now, again, so fantastic. It is, and it can be from the smallest thing, that we don't even realize that's going on. So digging deep. So because when you and I were talking before, and it's like we have to determine where we are at and who we are to be able to get from point A to point B. And that's the most difficult thing, but it's really digging deep and accepting and finding things out so that you are prepared to move forward. So how can someone tell if they need to make this shift?
Well, I like to start with my own identification, which also is a general list of what everybody that shows up at my doorstep, if you will, which is digital, but everybody that shows up at my doorstep, there's this general way that we arrive, and it's this place where the mental reels and the loops and the overthinking are just constant, nonstop, and they're just going and they're going and they're going and they're beating you up and they're dragging you around, and you just have this fear of change. Or if I decide to make some change, I have this fear of failure. But what's also driving that is, what? I have this internal belief of being invisible, of feeling dismissed or invalid, unheard, right? Like I arrived at my journey in this place of thinking that my thoughts, feelings, emotions, opinions, beliefs, needs, wants, desires, right, were not important. They didn't hold any value. And that was my own self-dialogue. But what that fostered was this tremendous sense of lacking self-worth and a trapped self-esteem. Like my self-esteem was so trapped in hiding behind what I did for others, or how much, all of the things that I do. I had this role. Right. And that's where I was trapped, because I was so fearful of venturing out from there. And so, I found that, I avoided quiet time. I didn't want to get stuck in those loops and the reels of everything from the past, of that long story that started as a young child. And so I avoided it and always made sure that I looked or appeared to be busy or productive. Right? Like that was super important. Like I can't be seen just sitting still, because my sense of self-worth is going to drop even more because somebody might judge me for that. And then there was, that feeling of isolation. Like if I venture out and I go to socialize with other people, I really don't have anything of value to add or anything valid to talk about. I'm just me. I'm not worldly. I'm not whatever, whatever negative loop I want to do attached to that in that space. And so, I started longing for what other people had, because I saw all these people, they're so polished when they talk, they, everything comes out so eloquently and nothing derails them, and they don't get irritated or, upset, which put me in a place of focusing on everything that I saw that wasn't right. And so I was always in this, this isn't right. This isn't right. And then that brought on the emotional sensitivity that was extreme, and the irritability that, all those things that just got under my skin. I just let them right in and let them gnaw away. And then, that bred the agitated outbursts that were completely unnecessary. And so I was in this place where, that frustration that just makes you want to run, bolt, right? Like that knee-jerk impulsivity that lives in our limbic system, right? The fight or flight, that was just there. And so I'm like, wow. And I stopped and I'm like, I am dragging my past around with me every day. No wonder it's so heavy. And I'm just ruminating and wallowing, and I'm attaching things from 20 years ago to to this life right now that is actually wonderful if I just let myself
Right.
see it. And so that's where I showed up. That's where most people show up. And usually people can find at least 5 things that they just resonated with in there. Right. And so we're stuffing, we're shoving, we're covering up, we're self-soothing. Our self-soothing tactics are poor. Whether that's every time we go to Target, we go in for three items and we come out with 25. And now we have the remorse. And now we're like, how am I getting this in the house? How am I going to explain this? What's the story going to be today? Right? And now how am I going to pay my bills? Or whatever it is. Like, it can be anything. It could be, grocery shopping and going, oh, I'm going to get that bucket of brownies for the kids. Only we eat it in the car on the way home. And we're like, well, now I got to eat it all because I don't want anybody to know I even bought it because I ate half or whatever the story is, whatever that loop is. Even if it's, alcohol, or whatever. I have plenty of clients that, I keep some bottles hidden in my gym bag at the back of the closet, and nobody knows that I drink them. Or, you know what, when I'm, at dinner time, I always find a reason to sneak off to the kitchen to get something so I could top off my glass of wine so that I know I get enough, whatever it is. Right. Like, there's so many different versions and everybody has their own. It's, virtually impossible. I have lots of moms that are like, their calendar is so full they couldn't breathe if they wanted to. Right. Anyway, I think, y'all get the idea. Like, this is addiction and recovery right here. Like, this is it.
Right. And Tricia, this is getting down to that point. We all have baggage. Everybody has baggage of one sort of or another. So we need to name it and we need to claim it. And that's where it all begins. Until we claim it and accept it and say, it's ready. We're ready. It's time to make a change. So awesome.
Right.
So, what are the warning or identifiable signs that someone's habits have taken them and holding them hostage?
So that's that gut-wrenching pull, the negative internal dialogue that's, oh, I did it again. Or when you're laying down going to bed, I'm not going to do it again tomorrow. Right. Like, or that, just that pull, that longing, that, it's just that internal battle, that struggle, from everything that I see. Like, if you stop and listen, that when something's tired and worn out, old, doesn't serve you any longer. Like, the definition of insanity. Like, I keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting some crazy new result, only it's not happening. Right. Like, it's just that inside, insanity loop, but for some people, it's more severe than others. Some people, that gut wrenching or that internal piece is a lot heavier. So, we do see, we have those depressive states, or do we have clinical depression? Like, we need to be able to discern between the two because they're very different.
Right.
The future trip and anxiety. Like, if we're so much here and we're, just always anxious and always in a panic, there's your sign, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to get together and slow things down.
Right. And what you're sharing, it doesn't matter what form of addiction it is. It all is the same thing. It all is the same thing. Oh, Tricia, this is fantastic. I'm so glad that we're sharing this for people to take a look at it, in a different light.
Yeah, because it could be even just, oh my gosh, I keep losing my cool over this one thing. Like, why do I yell at my wife or my husband about this same thing all the time? And it could be something as simple as a sock on the floor. Like, you can change that. Right. It's just a conditioned behavior from your past. We just need to restructure it and then condition the way that you'd prefer to see it. We all know how we want to see ourselves in life. Right. We all know how we want to be received by others in life. The problem is figuring out how to make that our reality.
Exactly. Oh, fantastic. So how do they know when it's time to take back over, you know, when it's time to, like, okay, it's time, I got to do this.
Right. And so I'll start with some of the obvious, right? You're drinking every day. Everybody, we're all in a pandemic, right? Like everybody that's coming in, not everybody, but a lot of people that are coming in, they're like, I went from a weekend drinker to a daily drinker because I'm just home, right? I've gained 20, 30 pounds because I'm home, and I don't have anything distracting me from eating. Like I'm not getting enough distance from my kitchen, right? Shopping so much easier. All I have to do is change my browser. Seriously.
Right.
So if you stop and you look and you say, wow, those things that are pulling at me are actually, negatively impacting me because, now all of a sudden I can't go without. I don't know how to stop. Right? It's time to do some investigating. It's time to stop and say, wow, why not fix this now before it gets out of control? I don't want to have to leave my life. I don't want to have to, totally restructure everything. Right? I just want to learn how to manage my vocals. I want to be able to, manage my actions. I want my routine to not be controlled by something outside of me.
Right. Now I'm gonna go a little off topic here, but it also, to me, it makes some. I have this question: when you notice, as an outsider, when you notice someone that is doing these things in the cycles, what do you think is the best way for somebody to approach someone about that, saying, "Are you making the best choices for yourself?"
So I get this question a lot, being an interventionist, and I do it quite differently than what you see on TV or the traditional, because the traditional is very necessary. They have the traditional interventionist. They are really strong, great individuals, but for the population of people that I work with, generally it's they'll tell me the story and they're like, I just don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, feed them information, meet them where they are, use the power of inquiry, right? Open-ended questions, get them to start to look, because if we bring to the table, like, don't you see how dysfunctional this thing that you do all the time is? Like, that's attacking.
Right.
And somebody that's really struggling with something, that's like trying to tell a smoker not to smoke, we've all been there. And so, you just want to promote self-discovery. So, be as gentle with it as possible. And so that's how I handle, those type of interventions. I'm like, just give me the introduction. I can meet them where they are. I know how to do that. There's not too much I haven't lived. Right.
Right.
They're, domestic violence, sexual assault, sexual abuse, addiction, chemical and process, eating disorders. I've been there, and I've had near-death experiences myself. And I've had children struggling with, disease, cancer, right. And so I have that ability to kind of, be able to process. So I tell them, get that introduction. Like, right. Hey, I met a life coach who, has some really practical tools that I thought were really cool. You should check it out, and right. Give them a website. Let them start to poke around, and but ask them with some open-ended questions.
Right.
Like, wow, how are you feeling? It just depends. Like, if it's alcohol, like, wow, I don't think that I could handle drinking every day. How does it work for you? How does it feel for you? Instead of, you shouldn't drink every day. Those should statements are really filled with a lot of pressure.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad that I asked that, because there are people who want to help a friend or a loved one and just don't know the way to go about it properly without being accusatory. and putting
Right. And
people in.
suggesting this is I think is super important. And I so apologize for cutting you off. But all we want to do, as a person that sees our loved one suffering, is go find that person to help them, which is great if we can do so as a seed planter only, because I tell people all the time, in fact, I turn people away, that our personalities don't match. Like, we're not going to be a good fit. I'm not going to speak your language. Right. And so the best thing that you can do is guide them to finding the right support for them. I searched and researched and interviewed for two treatment programs when I was going in myself, when my addiction turned physiological, and I no longer could control it and manage it on my own. And I actually developed a relationship with the counselors and the support staff and for 2 months, before I even went, right? And it made my journey, I believe, that much more successful. Right. Like, I went to treatment once in my life and that was it. Right. And then from there, it was me doing self-discovery and learning what I needed to learn, which is what brought my passion to the population that I work with.
Wonderful, wonderful. So moving on here, how can someone live for themselves first without feeling guilty or selfish? Because what I teach my clients is to put themselves first. And I'm talking from, their health, not just their physical health, but their spiritual health, their mental health, and their financial health. And I talk about that, and I talk about when you're building in your calendar, and you're doing your planning, putting your pieces, what you need to do for you into your calendar before you start putting everything else in there. And so this, hearing from you, is going to help people too, to know that, how do they do it without feeling selfish?
Yeah. Or punished or restricted. Right. So what you just said is super important. So I hope everybody wrote down those things, because those are four very key points. I take it a little bit farther when I'm working with people because they're in such a derailed state. Right. Like, I dive in and I teach them to put themselves first, just in how they define their life balance. Right. So we look at 8 categories, and one of those categories has 6 subcategories. So for all intent and purposes, we look at 14 categories of life when we are defining what needs to go in there, what it means to us, what does it truly represent. We also learn that we need to add, edit, delete as life goes on, because as we're healing, as we're changing, as we're growing and morphing into that vision that we've been longing to experience, we need to change, grow, we need our definitions to change with that. So, it's about putting ourselves first. Everybody can spend an hour a day, but it's really about learning how to honor, right? Honor ourselves, our needs, our wants, our desires. And what that truly takes is some life skills that we don't get taught in school. Right. And generally speaking, my generation and above, for sure, and I know people that are in their 30s and 40s, it's kind of a balancing act there, but our parents didn't know to teach us this either, right? So it's that impulse control, right? Self-soothing, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, right? How, feeling okay to be assertive, but really that relationship with the self. So we have to start somewhere. We have to start dissecting by looking at our core values. We have to know what they are. We have to know what's important to ourselves. We have to be able to identify how we truly feel in any given moment. And I don't mean, hey, Patricia, how are you today? Oh, I'm fine.
Right.
Let's look up the word fine as an adjective and look at the broad definition there. Narrow it, right? We have to narrow things down. We attach our anxiety, our feelings of lacking self-worth. We just say, oh, I have low self-esteem. Where? What category of your life? with who, in what situation, in what environment. It can't possibly be across the board. Like, let's narrow our perspective so that we have bite-sized pieces, right? So that we can actually do that. We also are in a society of that instant gratification, right? It goes with that impulse, right? That impulsivity. So we have to be able to control our moments. And so in order to do that, we have to be willing to slow things down. We can't even expect a self-improvement journey to be done when it's over. Like, I read the book, why aren't things changing? I did your program, I went through your curriculum. I spent the 3 months doing it. Why did all of these things come rushing back in, right? Like, I have a transitional period for a reason. It's the conditioning process. Right. Like, we got to learn it, we have to implement it, and then we have to condition it. We have to condition it to stick. So we want to go through things fast. We want to go to that weekend seminar. And I'm not bashing them, because I think they're wonderful. They're a lot of fun, and they're very inspirational, right? So if we're seeking inspiration, go spend a couple of days around like-minded people. Right. Yeah. But you better know what you need to do when you get home. It's the same with addiction treatment, right? Like, they stabilize you, they plant the seeds, they tell you what you need to look at and work on, but then they send you home to the same house, the same bills, the same kids, the same spouse, the same job, the same everything. Right. You were previously, derailed by. Right. And going, yeah, here, you discern it, right? Or go lean on a social support. And so, which is really where my program comes in, is we got to learn how to, see our environment in a productive fashion for us, not based on somebody else's lens, our lens, how we want to see it. Right. Yeah. So, and so again, it's a long process. It's not that long, but to not feel guilty or selfish, it's about structuring it properly. Like, we're okay to say, I need 10 minutes. Right. I'm not saying no. We have to learn how to say no without saying no. Like, yes, I'd love to be able to help you. Does Thursday work for you? Right. 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 Boundaries, limits, and limitations are so much more than what we think they are. Boundaries, there's 4 of them. And I learned this from an article written by a master therapist that I just thought was so profound. But if we utilize boundaries as what they are, so again, we look up the word boundaries, they're movable. Like, if you have goats and you put them in this fenced area, like, you move it from here to here. Like, they have to be flexible, they have to be pliable, they have to be manipulatable. Right. That was a bad word, but anyway. Right. Because we need them differently in different areas. So we have our internal, our external, our temporal, and our physical boundaries, and they need to be a filtration system. I like to take people through a visualization exercise, because I have some people that their boundary system is like a tree with, different windows and doors. And then there's some that, anyway, are more pliable, and some that are more, but so it's this wonderful filtration system that protects you, but it also protects others from what you send out, right? The limits and limitations, those are those hard, fast stops. Right. That you can't go past. And they're for you so that you don't fall off the edge of the cliff. Right. Right. And so we learn through the power of inquiry, how to really hear what we need to hear differently. Because if somebody says to you, wow, I can't believe you did that, and it's written typed, like, you get to perceive that however you want to hear it. Like, you get to choose, right? So it's really just about learning how to slow things down and internalize things, process them, make them look, feel, be how you need them to, and then engage. Right. Right. And so we get to not feel selfish or guilty for just honoring what we need in any time and space. Fantastic. Right. Because I'm not saying, I'm going on this self-discovery journey, and so I'm going to say no to you about everything. No, I'm going to implement some useful boundaries, limits, and limitations that are going to protect us both in our relationship so that it can grow and flourish together. Right? Unconditional positive regard is something that we all need more of.
Exactly. Fantastic. I mean, this is great stuff. So I hope the viewers and listeners are soaking this in and really, thinking about, what it is that you want for yourself, and the future that you have is unlimited. The potential is unlimited. You just need to take what she's saying and take a step back and decide. Everybody has a different vision or understanding of what success is, or wealth, and that's the same thing as what you're saying with this. We all need to get and identify what it means to us and for us. Yeah, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to do that, we have to, again, be willing to slow this down. And we were talking about this before, but it's like my favorite metaphor to leave people with. If you're on a journey, you have to do the journey, right? So to get from point A to point Z, you have to be willing to do B through Y, because without it, it's not the alphabet. But think about this. This is something that I love to teach everybody. It's how I show them how to truly implement it into their life the way that they need to implement it into their life. And I talk to people about this, even if it's, even if they went to, say, your seminar, I would want to be super passionate about teaching them this concept. And it's add, edit, delete. Because we still have to do B through Y. But if we already have something for D that works well for us, I can take your D, however you describe D, and I can remove your content and put mine in, but I can't leave it empty or remove that step, because without it, we're now missing a stepping stone.
Right.
I can't jump that far, right? As a society, as a culture, we always want that quick fix. We have to be willing to slow down and go through the process, right? One step at a time. We're transcending. We're not flying. I mean, it'd be great, but we don't get to just go, oh, I'm here and I want to be there, and because I said so, here I am. I'm over there now.
Exactly. And that brings to mind one of my favorite people to listen to and read is Dr. Wayne Dyer. And when he says, it's never crowded along that extra mile. And when we talk about goal achievement, we're talking, most people think it's those people, the extra mile, they're the ones, the high achievers that are way up there. And you think it's not crowded along there, which it's not. But the thing is, what happens, if you need to look at it this way, that extra mile is actually happening behind the scenes. That's where they're taking all these little things and working and getting it all right. They're building that foundation to be able to build their life, their legacy, and their world upon. And it's taking the time to put the work and effort in there that is going to make all the difference. And that's the same thing with what you're talking about with recovery and everything. It's really taking the time and effort to put together that foundation and do all the digging and the work that needs to happen.
Right. And I can imagine there's a few of you listeners out there that are like, yeah, but XYZ, or, oh my God, but ABC. And so, what we're really saying here, the two of us, is, if you're on this journey, right? Like, yesterday's already happened. You've clearly survived it. Look at what it is. Find your learning experiences, grab your nuggets, those things that have purpose, that have meaning, that will contribute to where you want to go, and dump the rest, leave it in a metaphoric trash can, throw it over the cliff, whatever visualization you need, right? So that you can go, wow, okay, I now have more tools. I have something to compare it to. I can quit thinking about it. And now, instead of looking forward, right, like future tripping, we're actually creating this solid foundation, right? Because your yesterday brings you to the growth opportunity in the now. Right. If you're so much in the future, you're not growing right now, right? Because today is what sets that foundation for all of your tomorrows. So don't miss today.
Right.
Don't miss now. Don't teeter and be, vulnerable over the edge there. Like, lay the foundation.
Right.
Make it as solid as you possibly can.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. And give yourself, everyone, give yourself credit, because everyone has strengths. You do have them, whether you believe it or not. And you have opportunities. You might not have just found them and uncovered what they are yet, but you do have them. So, and those are all parts of things that you can put in your toolbox. And like you said, that you have those toolbox and those positive things that when you connect and understand that you are worthy, and you connect these things that you have in the toolbox, you become so empowered to be able to move forward. So fantastic. So I want to ask you, so why do you think living for yourself first is so important? Because I tell clients what I think, but I want to hear what you say.
So we all have this desire to be the best version of ourselves for the people that we love, to be able to support them, to be able to nurture them, to be able to stand beside them in their life's journey, right? Like, we have this desire, right? It's innate inside of us, right? But if we aren't good with ourselves, if we aren't in a good relationship with ourselves, we aren't really capable of showing up the way that we want to show up for others. There's that piece. But also, as parents, as just people in general, we need to lead by example, right? We need to lead our children by this example that says, my thoughts, feelings, emotions, opinions, and beliefs are valid. They hold value and they're worthy of being heard. What a better thing to lead to all of our daughters and our sons, right? Instead of sweeping everything under the rug, using a little mommy helper pill or whatever it is, covering it up with the gruff exterior, why not lead by that example? Show our children that it's okay to be vulnerable, but also lead by the example that, their journey is to move from this external locus of control, which is, I need you to give and do and do and do for me, into a self-sufficient young adult. I talk to so many moms. They're like still feeding their kids breakfast on the couch and they're juniors in high school. I'm like, no. Right. And they're wondering why they feel like the housewife, the dismissed, unheard person, because they put themselves in this role. And it's okay to still want to do the laundry and cook and clean and all of that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But delegate, be a CEO, right?
Right.
Teach. We need our kids, when they get out of high school, to know how to do laundry, cook, clean, vacuum, dust, so they can move out and build their own families.
Right.
And teach our grandchildren how to self-soothe and have distress tolerance and emotion regulation and impulse control.
Right, exactly. And it reminds me of, I remember being a child, and we would be told, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. And they sent you to school, and school, they were expecting us that, that's where we were going to find out and get that guidance. But that didn't happen, did it? So that's the thing, is looking at now, being more involved and guiding your youth. So it really is important.
100%. And that's how we show up for ourselves also.
Right.
Right. Just one other little case study, right? I have a mom that, she's super, actually more than one now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, they're super worried about their daughters and their relationship with food and sugar. And they're picking up on all of the little things, right? That are exactly the way they are, right? But they're still hiding it. They're not talking to their family. They're not talking to their kids about this internal thing that they're struggling with.
Right.
They're trying to fix it all nice and neat and quiet. So they're still in this hiding spot. Like, we need to recover out loud.
Right.
Take the shame away from it. It's not something to feel guilty about. It's conditioned behaviors. Like we grew up, like I don't know about you, but every time I skinned my knee, I was given a popsicle, ice cream, whatever. And then when I did something good, I got, I
Right.
got rewarded. What do you want? Oh, I want to go to Farrell's ice cream. It's your birthday, you get cake and ice cream, and everything's centered around food or treats or,
That is true.
whatever. That was how I learned how to self-soothe. But it's also how I learned to control, right? That restricting. Right. I also learned that from my mom. Like, oh, I want my waist to be as small as my aunt's. It was only 19 inches and da 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 da. And so this is all I'm going to eat. And it has to be this and this small. And, and so I really started connecting. Like, if I want to control something in my life, like I'm going to control it. Right. So I that's how I ended up with, a journey with restricting anorexia.
Right.
And then this, poor relationship with food. I started, like getting disgusted by different things, and
Right.
the dysmorphia is really hard, and it's a really hard thing. So if we're not talking to our kids about it, if we're not leading by example,
Exactly.
if you're not saying out loud, like, wow, I struggled with, dysmorphia, and I struggled with my relationship with food and what its true purpose is, which is just fuel.
Right.
It's just fuel.
Yeah, that's true.
And I could talk for hours.
Yeah. No,
I've got
no,
lots
this
of
is this,
stories.
but this is great. This is being authentic and real, and we're showing people that, no one's perfect. No one's perfect. We all, again, we all have baggage. So let's name it and claim it so that we can move forward. And that's what I'm all about, is trying to help people be able to, determine where they are so that we can get them to where they want to be. So, what are some shifts that will promote this transition without creating the feeling of being restricted or punished? What what would you say?
I've touched on it quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but just to give a few bullet points of what the journey really looks like is, number one, you have to get to know yourself. And I'm not just talking surfacey, I'm talking about all levels, right? Physical, emotional, spiritual, social, environmental, right? Like, how do I respond to my environmental? And I always forget one. So whatever, I something about
Right.
me, whenever I'm trying to number 6 things or 8 things or whatever, I always leave out one. But
Yeah.
you get the idea. You
Right.
have to dive in there and see, where am I in this relationship with myself in all of these different categories. And then I have to be willing to look at all the categories of my life, those 8 things that I was talking about in the 6 subcategories, which are the 6 that I didn't get completely out.
Right.
But, right. And we have to look at that. And then we have to really learn how to control our moments, to slow things down enough so that we can start to restructure our internal dialogue. The pressure-filled statements, those things that, those things that we're stuck in, right? Those things that, all that past that we're carrying around with us. We have to be able to, like, get in there and say, okay, boom, I'm going to go slow enough so that I can learn how to control my moments. I can process through this stuff and categorize it appropriately, move it all around, get rid of it, whatever I need to do, right? And then we have to start cultivating and developing some very crucial tactics, like true assertive communication, which involves like a level of active listening that most people don't think about, because it's truly an art form. It's a back and forth articulation between, whoever's communicating, even if it's just communicating with yourself. So we have to be able to have that relationship conflict resolution in there with assertive tactics. And we have to have the toolkit that's going to work for all the situations, so we know which one to pull out. And so we have to, research a bunch, see which ones sit well, and then create our own toolkit. And then we move into things like distress tolerance, effective self-soothing, effective anticipation.
Right.
That's a big one. How do we anticipate effectively? Right. And it's my favorite thing one of my favorite things to teach. I think I probably said that 100 times. And then we move into that, that emotion regulation and really, and and then learned all of these things. I know which ones fit in my thing. How do I need to add, edit, delete, make them my own, and start implementing them? And so it's a process.
Right.
But those things are super crucial, because until you can control your moments and effectively anticipate, things are going to continue to loop and reel and spiral.
Exactly. And it all boils down to learning to how you can be proactive rather than reactive to everything that's going on. And it's that is so true. And every single one of us in so many different points in our lives can use those same tools.
Oh, sure. One of my courses is particularly for people that fall more into that category of codependent, people pleasing, just needing life skills,
right?
Kind of person. I have a poor relationship with myself. I don't necessarily have, or they don't perceive themselves as having any addictive behaviors, so, it's just a different presentation. It's just a different way of learning the skill sets, but they're all the same.
Exactly. So fantastic. It's been so wonderful. I hope people have listened in and, made some notes and even mental notes on things that, might be clicking for themselves, because it really is all about figuring out who we are, where we're at, so that we can get where we want to be. So thank you so much for being with me, Tricia. Do you have any special gifts for our viewers and listeners today?
I did want to give everybody a nice special gift, and it's my 5-day Breathe book. And really what this is like that break that we can give ourselves before we go on a self-exploration journey, or just in between things, right? Like, I need to regroup. So every day for 5 days, you have 4 prompts, one for the morning, one for the afternoon, the evening, and before bed, that really just help you recenter, get grounded, and just come back to loving on yourself. So I'm putting a link here so that everybody can have a copy of that for free today.
Oh, thank you.
And consultations are always complimentary. I love to do meet and greets, and so I don't even really consider them to be consultations. It's just a meet and greet. So anybody can always, grab 30 minutes of my time just to pick my ear. I'm always happy to help people find their direction.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we will be putting the information below here. So for anyone who'd like to find out more about me, you can go to patriciajogrover.com. And since we're finishing up 2020 and heading into 2021, I have special gifts for the viewers and listeners. If you text the word GOAL, GOAL, to 866-926-4020, I have the 7 steps to goal achievement. So it's there. There's over $600 worth of value, and not everybody will need all the things that they're getting all at one time. You can spread things out for when you are in need of each step. So, but there I do have my second edition of my book's coming out. There's a $5 off coupon. You don't even need to pre-order the book to take advantage of. If you do 3 assignments, there's 3 assignments there. That comes back to me. I'll give you the hour. I'll sit down for an hour, do the consultation, and we'll be able to put together your framework for you to move forward with achieving your dreams and goals for 2021. So it's a lot of the things that Tricia and I have just talked about. It's really digging deep and to determine, because to get you from point A to point B, and once somebody learns how to do that, then they're so empowered to continue doing it for themselves. So, and that's what I'm all about here. So that's my gift for everyone. And again, it was wonderful to have you with me, Tricia. And until next time, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.